you do if you received a letter from a loved one 5 decades after it was written? Well, that's one question Jaron Spohr went to Graham to ask after a time capsule buried in 1972 was recently unearthed and opened.
As Jaron Spohr shows us this evening, many have totally forgotten about the letter, sealed up for 50 years. So when they arrive, they are a gift of a lifetime.
As I was reading this letter, I could hear her voice speaking as this letter was being read, and that was one of the really cool things.
It's the perfect sentimental gift, written 50 years ago when stamps were 8 cents and gas was 36 cents a gallon.
Whenever I was 8 years old, my grandmother, Opal Babbitt, she told me and my brother that she was putting a letter into this time capsule. When you're 8 years old, you have no idea what a time capsule is. And when she said that we open up in 50 years, I mean, when you're 8 years old again, 50 years is a million years from now. Well, here we are.
Graham resident Rick Edwards is one of more than 300 people who had letters written to them, then sealed for half a century in this time capsule. Back in 1972, the city of Graham decided to bury the time capsule in Shawnee Park as part of the city's centennial celebration.
So this is where our time capsule was buried. It had a large plaque on top of it that told us when it was buried and when to dig it up, and then our city crews came out and helped us get it out of the ground.
There was some trepidation as they prepared to open the capsule, wondering if everything would be intact after 50 years. But to their relief and surprise, not only did the letters survive being sealed from light, they looked almost as if they'd been written yesterday.
About 3 pages worth of stuff in there when we typed it all up, but there are things from the high school, from local businesses, from the city, the county. There's stuff from the governor at the time. So there's a lot of stuff in there.
Edwards says there were many things in his letter that fascinated and touched him, from his grandma talking about him like he was still in 3rd grade to hoping the best for him and his future family.
She said, "Dear Ricky, we're celebrating Graham's centennial this month, and I'm placing this letter for you and your family in the time capsule. Soon you'll be having a birthday, and I can hardly believe that you're going to be turning 9 years old. It seems like such a short time ago that I sat with you waiting in a waiting room at the Olney Hospital, waiting your arrival. And of course, you took your time, and your dad was walking the floors, and he about wore them out. Then we saw our first grandchild, and that was what we were patiently waiting for." She wanted to say, after 50 years, may God richly bless you and your family with all the things that are going on in your life. She says, "I pray that you and your brother Doug can gather and read these letters and put together the history of our families and what our family has meant to each other and to this city. And we're hoping that in 50 years you've been very successful." And she wrote it, "Love, your grandmother and your grandfather, Opal Lorene Cantrell Babbitt and Leonard Autry Babbitt."
And it was that special letter that brought so many emotions to Rick.
As I got to the very end of the letter, she started talking about how you're going to be almost 60 years old when you read this letter, and you probably have a family, and she was excited about that. And that was a very emotional part of it, because it was like, you know, having your grandmother 50 years ago talk to you 50 years in the future, wow, that's a pretty cool deal.
And the best thing of all, the letter let him know that even though she's gone, she's still watching over him from above.
Wow. Can you imagine receiving one of those?
The gift of a lifetime, for sure.
For sure. Well, another one of the many letters is from 1972 Texas Governor Preston Smith, who writes to the future governor, who would turn out to be Governor Greg Abbott. The letter will be mailed from Graham to Austin.
Wow. The ceremony to see this and much more is coming up. It's going to be April 30th from 10 until 3 right there at the old Post Office Museum and Art Center in Graham. I just think it's wonderful that Graham thought to do this.
I think so, too. I think some other cities might be taking after them after seeing the reaction that they got.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
For sure. Well, Governor